On today's show, I'm going to be telling you ways that the Clippers can try to start turning things around as they finish off this 5 game road trip on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, been a Clipper fan for 21 years, been covering the team on my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for 6, and 4 right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell on YouTube to get us up to 8,000 subscribers before the end of 2025, and you can listen wherever you get your podcasts. This episode is brought to you by none other than Game Time, the best place to get great deals last minute on tickets before the start of an event, any event. All you got to do is download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Clipper Nation, sitting here on Wednesday night, and we're going to be talking about the ways that the Clippers can try to turn things around, or ways that they can turn things around. I shouldn't say try. And the first is the most fundamental part of being in a hole. And to get out of it, it's desperation. Secondly, I'm going to be talking about specific areas of improvement. And then Ty Lue had a say on the CP3 situation. So we're going to be analyzing that. So first, let's talk about the most basic part of competing when it comes to a situation like this, where you are 6-18. You have put yourself in a hole in which I always say it's way too early to look at standings, but right now we are in 14th place in the Western Conference, tied for 13th with the Sacramento Kings. We've lost we've won 2 out of our last 10 games, and we are 3 games below the 10th seeded Portland Trailblazers. So how do we turn things around? Well, the very first step is to play with desperation. Every single game is a must-win game. Every single one right now. And every single loss gets us closer and closer to not making the play-in, which would be a complete disaster given that we were expected by people like myself, the clown, to be top 3 in the West, or at least in the top 6. But we've had a lot of injuries. We've had a lot of players underperform, and now we're in this situation. So the first thing is to play with desperation. And what I mean by that is our defense needs to be 1 through 5, trying your hardest at whatever your role is. For guys like Chris Dunn, it's to guard the ball. For guys like Kawhi, it's to be in help and hold your own when called upon. For guys like James Harden, it's to at least try a little bit. For Ivica Zubac, it's to be intimidating around the rim and to change and alter shots around the basket. And then you have the younger guys who obviously have been kind of thrown into the fire in a season in which they didn't really expect it, but we need some from them. In the last game, we played an interesting rotation. Bogey came back, and Brook Lopez got back in the rotation. So for me, we're going to need to start seeing Brook Lopez play with a little more desperation. And I'm not saying he's going to be able to move his feet and he's going to be a great defender, but what we need is for him to get more than 0 rebounds in a game. Like, I get it. Today's NBA is different. You don't have, centers in the paint necessarily anymore. So there's a lot of long misses. Guards will get a lot of rebounds because it'll just come to them. But at the end of the day, you're still 7'1", and you got 0 rebounds in a basketball game in which you played 10 minutes. I get it. 10 minutes is not a ton, but still. It's not like it's just one game when it comes to Brook Lopez's lack of rebounding. So we're going to need more there. Bogey's just going to have to try to hold his own on defense. He's not a very good defender. He's not great at moving his feet. He's not extremely intelligent on that end of the floor. He's strong, but that's about it. So he's just going to have to be the best version of himself on that end of the floor. And I think as a team, we need to just, we're 20th in the league in defensive rating right now, after being 3rd last season. And I get it. KPJ, Amir Coffey, Terrence Mann, they contributed to that start of the season. We also had more lineups with Derek and Chris Dunn playing together. And this season's just kind of been wacky because last season we started with a team that kind of got reps in together to start the year, and we had some continuity with Derek, Chris, Terrence. Man was starting in the beginning. We replaced him with Chris Dunn, but Norman Powell, James, and Zoo. And this season we had Beal being on a minutes restriction starting to begin the season. So that was, just kind of inconvenient when we're trying to build habits, to start the season, and you got a guy that's not really being let off the leash, so to speak. So then you have Beal getting injured for the season. Then Kawhi goes down for 10 games when he's starting to pick up steam. And then now you have Derek go down. And then Chris Paul has been a disaster. And then Brook Lopez has been a disaster. And then Bogey's been injured constantly. So it's just kind of been a complete storm of garbage that we've had to endure. But I still think we can turn it around in the sense that we can start winning games again. Now, I don't know if it's going to be at Houston. They're a very solid team. They're playing well. They have Kevin Durant now alongside a core that, outside of Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks, got to the playoffs last year as a second seed. But, I'm not even just talking about one game. I'm just talking about our overall demeanor. We need to play with desperation. That means sprinting back in transition. That means boxing out, which we haven't done a good job of all season long. That means playing every game like it's a playoff game. Can we get that from the likes of Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, Bogey, Brook Lopez, Zoo? I mean, see, we need the real thing the simplest way we can turn the season around is we get Ivica Zubac, Ivica, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, whatever you want to call him. The version of Zoo that we get that's playing with an intensity and a force and a power to his game, where he's going up strong and dunking everything, where he's sending shots and you can see in his body language, he is one of the best centers in basketball. And we've seen that maybe 4 or 5 games this season. And that's not good enough. So we're going to just need to see a collective effort that we still believe in this season, and it's going to happen one game at a time. We're going to play a 9-man rotation, maybe even 10 with Kobe Brown or Cam Christie. But right now, until Derek comes back, it's going to be the same starting 5 of Chris, James, Ivica Zubac, John Collins, and Kawhi Leonard. And then off the bench, it's going to be Nico, it's going to be Brook, it's going to be Bogey, and it's going to be Kobe Sanders. But coming up, going to be talking about the specific areas of improvement that we're going to need to see on the basketball court. I mentioned some, but we're going to go in a little bit more detail. I got to tell you a little something about Mint Mobile. There's no reason to let big wireless drain your wallet, especially during the holidays. Right now, Mint Mobile is running their best deal of the year. All of their unlimited plans are 50% off. That means you can lock in 3, 6, or even 12 months of unlimited premium wireless for just $15 a month. It's the easiest way to take your overpriced phone bill and give it the full Scrooge treatment. And what makes this even better is how simple Mint makes the switch. No contracts, no nonsense, just real savings and real quality service. Switching to Mint lets you keep your same coverage for a lower price. Turn your expensive wireless present into a huge wireless savings future by switching to Mint. Shop Mint Unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. Limited time offer. Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12 months. Plan required. $15 a month equivalent. Taxes and fees. Initial plan term only. Greater than 35 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com. All right. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Clippers with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more. All for just $5 a month or $50 a year. All righty. So the Clippers, 6-18 so far this season. It has been rough, to say the least. Now, here's what we got. Or areas that we need to improve in, I should say. First, as I mentioned, the defense. I mean, as a team, I think transition defense is a big thing for us. We need to just do a better job of hustling, getting back, and we need to talk. It's really that simple. I tell my kids this all the time when we play. Transition defense, especially the teams that I coach for school, we are transition based because I put a lot of guards on the squad. And I know it's different levels, but it's the same at every level. You just need to hustle back. A lot of basketball is just a running game. You got to beat your team down the floor on both ends, and you got to communicate on defense and pick up the ball and pick up the rim runner that's furthest from the play, or ahead of the play, I should say, getting down, running the floor, the furthest or behind you. Basically, don't let anybody get behind you. Jesus, sorry for being so bad at explaining that. Anyway, our transition defense isn't good because we're old and we run out of legs. But we just got to, as I said, it goes back to the first thing, desperation. We need to have a more consistent effort on that end. And how do you prevent teams from getting in transition? You take care of the ball and you make shots. And in terms of taking care of the ball, the Clippers this season are 20th in turnovers. We're 20th in three-point percentage and 20th in turnovers, right? Wait, are we 20th in defensive rating? Let me double check that. And last I checked, we were 26th. We're 25th in defensive rating. 25th in defensive rating, 19th in offensive rating, and then we're 20th in three-point percentage and 20th in turnovers. So, and I mean, 11th most turnovers in the league. So we need to do a much better job of taking care of the ball. Point blank. And it begins with James Harden, Ivica Zubac, and John Collins. James Harden's averaging 4 turnovers a night. 8 assists, so a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. That's still a little too much. Ivica Zubac is averaging 2 turnovers. He's a center. He should not be getting that many. I get there's a lot of opportunities to get turnovers where you're setting screens. You might get a moving screen. He's in the post. They call offensive fouls there sometimes, but travel. He's been getting stuff like for traveling, for losing the ball, like slipping it out, the ball slipping out of his hands and stuff of that nature. He needs to take care of the ball. And then Kawhi, he's also averaging 2 turnovers a game. John Collins, a turnover and a half a game. However, he's been cleaning it up a little bit lately. So I'm happy that he's been doing that. But right now, Kawhi needs to do it. 2 turnovers is not that much, but he's only averaging 3 assists. So that assist to turnover ratio is not that great. And again, if we take care of the ball, we will see success because we're going to prevent teams from getting out in transition on our old asses. But another aspect that I feel like has really let us down so far this season, and I'm just starting to think that it's, we're just not good at this, is making the open 3 ball. When you're playing with a guy like James Harden, he's going to get you a lot of open 3s. And we've got to knock down those shots. And we're not doing a good job of knocking down those shots. And again, going back to defense, transition defense, we knock down 3s. Our defense gets set. And I really don't think that our half-court defense is that awful. I think we've played against a lot of teams that have just drained 3s or one guy has gone really hot. And I do feel as though we are bound for a regression in that department. We saw it against Atlanta. And we also saw it to some degree against Minnesota. But then in the second half, they started making everything. But we got a half of them not. We just couldn't complete the job. Also, I haven't even mentioned this yet, but this has been one of the biggest things that's hurt us this season. Kawhi Leonard's minutes restriction. I'm not blaming Kawhi, but every single time we're in the fourth quarter of a close game, we're wondering when's Kawhi going to come out for his minutes restriction thing. It makes it very hard to win games. So, honestly, I think we could big brain, and I can talk about all these specifics this whole episode long, but I always believe it starts from the top. And if your best player is restricted, then your team is restricted in the NBA. That's just how it goes. So, you know what? The first thing that needs to change is that. That's the first thing that needs to change. We got to get Kawhi off that minutes restriction. Because my goodness. Now, the thing is, I really don't want him to get hurt because I need his trade value high. We need to get these guys the move on. We need to get him out of here. But in the context of us trying to get back into the mix this season and, let's get back into the play-in race. Maybe we can get that 10th seed. These are all the things we got to do. Absolutely. These are the things we got to do. And I think this is the more likely thing. So everybody that's saying blow it up, including myself, I just don't know if it's going to happen. I think that's a thing that I've talked about this before, but Ballmer needs to really, take a look within and decide if that's what he wants to do. He's got to concede some things that I don't think he's very comfortable with, like not being great for a year or two. We'll see, though. That's a different conversation. Three-pointers. Let's look at the three-point percentage from our individuals, because as a team, we're shooting 35%, which is 20th in the league. Let's look at our percentages. Jordan Miller doesn't count, but he's shooting 50%. He just hasn't played enough games to even take him seriously in that department. He's played 4 games, so it doesn't count. Kawhi's shooting 39% on 6 attempts a game. That's awesome. Kawhi's shooting 49, 39, 97. So he's 1% away from 50, 40, 90. I mean, he's been shooting very well. So great on Kawhi. Nico Batum is our second highest three-point shooting player, with not counting Jordan Miller, at 38%. So that's very good too. And he had a slow start to the season shooting the ball. So 38%, we'll take that. Beal's injured, doesn't count. Harden, 37%. Considering the degree of difficulty on his shots, I think that is pretty good. And he's shooting 10 a game. 10 of his 17 and a half shots are threes, which let me know what you think of that in the comments. I'm not a huge fan of that for any player, but James is shooting 37%, so you can make an argument. And considering he gets fouled so much on those threes, it's not terrible. But there are some games where I think we lose when James Harden gets tired and he settles for a lot of threes. Brook Lopez, 35%. It's not good enough. When you look at his percentages the last couple of years, last year, for example, he shot 37. The year before, 37. The year before, 37. The year before, 36. So this is his lowest three-point shooting season since 2021, ironically, when they won the whole thing. But in the playoffs, this fool Brook Lopez, he shot, wow, he didn't even shoot well from 3 that playoffs. 32%? Damn. I don't even remember that. So anyway, I don't know. He's got to knock down shots at the end of the day. He's got to knock down shots. And then you've got Derrick Jones Jr., who's only shooting 35%. Kobe Sanders, 35. Chris Dunn, 34.5. Chris Paul, 33. Bogey, 33. Cam Christie, 31. John Collins, 31. Kobe Brown, 27. Do you see all those numbers that are 35 and under? That has to change. Brook Lopez has got to knock down shots, and he's got to stop taking contested threes because he's actually shooting a good percentage on open threes. He's got to stop taking the contested. And then Derrick Jones Jr., he's just who he is as a shooter, 35%. Chris Dunn is also who he is as a shooter. But Bogey can shoot better than 33. And then the biggest one is John Collins, 31%. That's not acceptable. We got him. He didn't have to shoot 40%, but if he had shot at least 37, 38, that would make a huge difference in these games. We need more from John. We really do. He's our 4th leading scorer, 12 points a game. 5 rebounds is not enough. He should be at least at 7 rebounds. Right now, Kawhi Leonard and James Harden are our 2nd and 3rd leading rebounders. And they're our oldest guys. I know they play a lot of minutes, but that's no excuse. John Collins needs to do a better job rebounding. We just don't do enough of those little things athletically. We don't challenge at the rim because we're afraid to get hurt because some of our guys are old geezers. We don't take charges at all. We don't do any of those things. We don't put our bodies on the line because everybody's old. They're scared. They don't want to. Until I see any differently, that's what I believe. Because it makes sense. It's just that we're too old. So those are some of the areas I think we can improve. Take care of the ball. We've knocked down open threes. We're going to be able to set our defense. And then Chris Dunn's got to stop reaching so much. You know, he's done a little bit better the last couple of games in that department. And we've actually been defending a little bit better the last couple of games. But we need to stay solid. Don't reach so much. Stop gambling so much. And we'll be good. We'll be good. Defensively. Offensively, we'll see. Now, coming up, going to be talking about Ty Lue's comments when asked about the Chris Paul situation. I got to tell you a little something about Game Time. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. Now, when it comes to the World Cup, I am the greatest, the luckiest person in the world with the fact that Iran and USA, my 2 countries, are playing 4 games in LA. So you best believe if I do not get tickets on the random selection draw, I'm going to be looking at Game Time. to take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time. All right, so as everybody knows, Chris Paul was kicked off the Clippers for conduct detrimental to the team. And obviously, the initial reports from Shams and Chris Haynes was they didn't agree with Chris's leadership style. He was aggressive. He, was holding guys accountable, and they didn't like it, which made the Clippers as an organization and as a team look very soft. And then we started to hear different reports from people that he was talking a lot of mess behind the scenes, undermining coaches, changing defensive coverages, and things of that nature where he was kind of going behind people's backs and people wanted him gone, top to bottom. Now, Ty Lue was accused of not being on speaking terms with Chris Paul for weeks. Our local beat writers asked him about it, and he said that ain't true. How he going to play, and I'm not talking to him. There was a stretch when he wasn't going to play and be out of the rotation. It was tough for him because he's a competitor. So let's talk about that real quick. I remember saying before the season started, is Chris Paul okay with being a 10th or 11th man? Clearly the answer was no. Even though he was with his family and all that, clearly the answer was no. And he didn't do anything on the court to really prove that he deserved more time. And again, I'm speaking as somebody who loves Chris Paul. Top 2 favorite Clipper of all time for me. Either him or Blake Griffin, number 1. And, just based on the fact that my favorite team is the Clippers, they might be my favorite player of all time. It's just, when it comes to actually watching them play basketball, they're not my favorite player. But they're up there in that conversation. Easily 2 of my top 5 players ever. But I'm not going to defend him in this sense. He wasn't playing well. So he needs to accept that maybe being taken out of the rotation, his minutes were complete negatives. He wasn't playing defense. And I don't think he can play defense anymore. He can't really move his feet. When he gets switched on to bigger guys, he just gambles. He was constantly a problem in transition. Because when guys have a full head of steam, he's just not staying in front. And then offensively, he wasn't actually creating a ton of good shots. And he wasn't making his shots that he's made his whole career. He's getting ball pressured and giving up the ball uncharacteristically in the backcourt. Nobody could one-on-one ball pressure CP3 back in the day. Even as recently as 4 years ago. You couldn't do that when he was in Phoenix. So CP3, he couldn't accept that he was coming off the bench. He definitely probably caused some scenes after that. I can imagine. I mean, Ty Lue's even admitting it, saying it was tough for him because he's a competitor. Given what happened, that definitely caused some tension, I would assume. And then Tyronn Lue, because Law Murray, our good friend from The Athletic, asked Ty Lue, you've sent guys home before. That was clearly in reference to the Marcus Morris situation, the Reggie Jackson situation. But they came back after a couple of weeks. Why was this not reconcilable? And Ty said, just ask Lawrence. You got to ask Lawrence. So it's a lot of deflecting there. And again, this is all I know. And Kendrick Perkins said it. So I heard it from heard it from different people. But I just heard that Chris Paul was doing a lot of gossipy stuff behind the scenes. Talking about coaches and players. And, that's high school vibes. And can't have that. Now, I'm not defending the Clippers' decision at all to kick him off the team. I think they should have suspended him if it was that bad indefinitely and then figured it out from there. But, God, for the Clippers to take the PR hit that they've taken with this, it had to have been so bad. He had to have been because Ty Lue claims that, a lot of people were sad to see him go. I wonder if that's true. I can't prove it or not, but I wonder if that's true that some players were sad to see him go. Because Kawhi and James Harden they were acting like it was a surprise. I couldn't believe it, And Nico was like, he's a legend or whatever. Everybody's saying what they need to say to save face because Chris Paul's an icon in the basketball world. But I would really love to know which players, which staff members were over him. Because to kick someone who has that much, he's the greatest Clipper in the building. You know what I'm saying? Because the only other man that has a case to be over him is Blake. That's it. I love the do. But Buffalo, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not rocking with that. This is the LA Clippers. Relocate the team to Seattle. You know how many times I get mad? Like, whenever I hear that kind of stuff, San Diego, Seattle, I get so angry, man. Because I would not be a Clipper fan if they weren't in LA. That's the only reason is because I had a choice, between the Lakers and the Clippers. And I'm a Clipper fan till I die. But I'm a Clipper fan till I die if they're in LA. And I don't think I would be able to put on another jersey if they were to relocate. But we're not going to relocate. We just built the best arena in basketball. So I hate hearing those comments. And the reason why I brought that up is because, when it comes to every Clipper in the room, Chris Paul. Oh, yeah, I was going back to Bob McAdoo. Yeah, I mean, Buffalo, I have respect for the roots of our franchise, and I've never been to Buffalo, but the Bills have great fans, and Bob McAdoo's a legend. I'm not taking away from him. He won an MVP. We never won a series, though. The greatest Clippers of all time are, and also Clippers, the greatest Clippers of all time are Blake Griffin and Chris Paul. And also, unless, to me, the 70s is hard, because unless you're a really successful team, like the Knicks were in the 70s, or the Celtics with Havlicek and Cowens and those guys, or even the Blazers that won, or the Bullets at the end of the decade, or the Sonics with Lenny Wilkens as coach, rest in peace, and DJ, rest in peace, and Gus, rest in peace. God damn, we're losing so many great players and people in the NBA. But those teams in the 70s, we can talk about, maybe Dennis Johnson or Gus Williams is the best Sonic of all time instead of Sean Kemp and Gary Payton because they won a ring. But when it comes to us, no, we got to go with the guys that won playoff series, and that's Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. So when it comes to how many people wanted him gone and whatnot, I don't know. I truly don't know which people, but I just know a lot of people were not a fan. And for them to take the PR hit of getting rid of the greatest Clipper in the building because everybody didn't like him or something, sheesh, that's tough. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper, LA Sports, and NBA content. And of course, Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, where I want you to subscribe and hit the notification bell so we can get to 8,000 subs before the end of the 2025. The age-old proverb continues, go Clippers.